it is a kind of perfect summation of who he is as a star, not just on screen, but in terms of what we know about him as a person.
You're breathtaking. You're all breathtaking. I have been a part of some films that have been embraced, and I am very grateful.
Right. Probably in Sky. He took some solace in science fiction reading and in comic books, which is really interesting when you think about the trajectory of his career and the kinds of films he ended up making.
He was a private child who struggled a lot due to dyslexia, which is something that he has been quite forthcoming about and how that struggle impacted him. Didn't really have any interest in acting until the influence of his stepfather really gave him that kind of bug.
Keanu has a really interesting background in that he was born in Beirut, in Lebanon, when his parents were living there. His mother was English. His father was a mix of ethnicities, including Hawaiian.
His mother was working in Beirut, where she met his father, but they did split up when Keanu was 3. So he didn't really have a relationship with his dad. He didn't even really meet him properly until he was about 13.
Art had become a pivotal aspect for Keanu and his sister Kim, who were entranced by fiction and film alike. Growing up in the 70s, there was no lack of incredible films for the siblings to watch.
Later on, he said that when he was growing up, he could only imagine that he would go to Hollywood. His goal was always to go to Hollywood because the films he watched as a kid were made in Hollywood. He understood that he wanted to be part of that world.
So Keanu's stepdad was Paul Aaron, who was a Hollywood director and Broadway producer. Paul Aaron was very supportive of Keanu's interest in acting and eventually would recommend him for a job at the Hedgerow Theatre in Pennsylvania, where he would spend some time working as an apprentice and assisting and kind of living there and helping out.
Keanu grew into the definition of a hotshot, high-octane teen. His stage performances during his years of education placed him in a handful of short films. It wasn't long before he found himself starring in commercials and eventually in Hanging In, a Canadian sitcom.
Hey, where do you keep the towels? Pizza and we could use a shower.
Oh, Peter put you in here.
Yeah, you rescued us.
Where did he find you?
Reeves worked for the Canadian Broadcasting Company when he was a teenager for the youth news program Going Great. He starred in a few different American shows where he first moved to Hollywood, including Babes and Tommy and Jesus, before he was able to get his first film.
Hockey has always been a massive part of Keanu's life. After his move to Toronto, Keanu took up the sport, which served him in more ways than one. It was a huge asset when Keanu landed a role in his first feature film. The movement of his body complemented his more outlandish and extreme roles. He showed promise whilst playing as Heaver, a goalkeeper in the lighthearted sports feature, Youngblood. Even if the film was a little formulaic, it gave Keanu an opportunity to experience a larger film set.
I'm playing a 17-year-old body with a 40-year-old mind, okay? But then I had to play with my conception of 40, which was sort of older, right? You look at a 40-year-old and go, you're old, you know, but he's not.
Sounds like a juicy, challenging role, and it's good that you got this and another thing.
哎，要死哦！你去找别的地方死。真的 fuck brain Malaysian 啊，真的。鸡歪 brain 啊！我真的干你 fucking dogs 啊！ 你这种 fucking 鸡歪 exist。哎，我你呆找一辆车走进去里面，乱八错你。
Change his name because Keanu sounded too ethnic, which he briefly considered but ultimately decided it wasn't quite right. And I think it's a great decision because now
stood out as one of the grungier, darker pieces. It offered Keanu a chance to approach a more serious role. Whilst the actor was still up and coming, it served as an opportunity to carry a role with heavy thematic undertones.
The film shows the kind of malaise of this community and how the teenagers have to come to terms with this incredibly harrowing situation. And Keanu was praised quite roundly for his performance as Matt. He's one of the, I would say, darker characters within it. He kind of struggles a lot with the situation.
You think, Don John?
I'm your brother.
Where do my children go at night?
His performance was regarded as a real breakout by people like the New York Times. Everyone was kind of amazed that this presence had kind of come out of nowhere. I think he was really able quite early on to establish himself as quite a distinctive figure in acting who was someone definitely worth keeping an eye on.
Permanent Record, a more underrated feature, had Keanu play as Chris Townsend.
But, I don't know if I did the right thing.
After the passing of his closest friend, Keanu's upbeat character changes drastically. The film depicts grief in a very unique way, having sharing the experience between a range of characters of which Keanu seemingly has to manage.
He also, in the late 80s, has a co-starring role in Dangerous Liaisons, a costume drama in which you might say is just a little bit miscast. So he makes his really big breakthrough with Bill and Ted.
Bill and Ted, Those Excellent
A really
Adventures.
distinctive film, and one that seems perfectly suited to him. It's really what made him a star than any other film had done to that point. The Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure was a film about two high school students who had to create a history paper, and somehow they managed to travel through time to meet some of the characters they need to write about in their paper. It's just a wonderful, wide-eyed adventure story.
Let's go back into history.
I think that this was due to it being this really big, silly, fun movie, which took something that people already kind of were seeing a lot of in this time travel adventure movie genre that had developed with something like Back to the Future. It combined it with this kind of new era, shall we say, of kind of stoner comedies, which were very silly and just presented themselves as not taking film too seriously.
What makes it really memorable and remarkable is that it's a film about teenage male friendship that is utterly without aggression or malice. They're just good friends. They get along really well. They help each other. And they do have an excellent adventure. So it's a really sweet film. It's maybe even a slightly educational film, given that you get to meet Socrates and Abraham Lincoln. A film that established him in his wide-eyed capacity. His big phrase in the film is there's a sense in which everything is new and exciting and appealing to this rather sweet, not entirely bright teenage boy.
The film was really well received by critics, made a surprising return on the box office investment, and has become known now as one of the kind of best sci-fi movies around, because it just takes the genre, which sometimes I think can feel quite serious, and plays with it and has fun with it. It's really known as a defining presence within Keanu's filmography.
There's an element of nostalgia to Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure. Like you can't. I imagine if you watched as a teenager, you simply identify with Bill and Ted. But if you watch it as an adult, you kind of look back to teenage years and the kinds of adventures and the kinds of friendships that you had at that time in your life. So I think it's a perfect film for nostalgia. It's a perfect series to stay in the hearts of audiences because of that nostalgia factor and the idea that one would always like to look back on those sorts of friendships and that period in your life for the kind of excitement that it has in the film.
The phenomenon that was Bill and Ted made Keanu Reeves a household name. Keanu makes an effort to form relationships with his co-starring actors and set professionals. His friendship with River Phoenix stood out in I Love You to Death.
What do you say?
The black comedy propelled both Keanu and River to the next stages of their blossoming careers.
Whoops.
I have a feeling we're about to embark upon a most unprecedented expedition.
Bill and Ted returned once again for the sequel. There's a lot of deliberation as to which film people prefer. The battle with death remains an iconic scene in anyone's eyes. To many, it was a clever spin on Ingmar Bergman's The Seventh Seal. With less chess and more Bill and Ted antics.
Bill and Ted are dead.
Keanu, having developed a passion for composing music, decided to start a band.
Dogstar.
Dogstar consisted of drummer Robert Mailhouse, who Keanu met at Gleason's Supermarket. Brett Dormouse was on guitar, and Keanu Reeves on bass and shared vocals.
That's Brett Dormouse, happy to be here.
Rock stars become music stars, movie stars all the time. How does it feel to be a movie star who's becoming a rock star with a passion for music?
Well, I have a passion for music. I don't think myself or the band Dogstar have quite reached the heights of rock stardom, but it's been really fun playing in the band over the past 6 years, and hopefully we can continue to make records and play live and stuff, you know?
Does Dogstar afford you peace and security?
Is rock affording me peace and security? Absolutely not. No, but it's really fun, man. It's really fun to write, and the fraternity with my band members, and like traveling and when we can and doing rock shows is a lot of fun.
Keanu and River Phoenix returned in a feature the following year, breaking out of the teen fiction rut and taking on a serious narrative.
Always know where I am by the way the road looks. Look, I just know that I've been here before. I just know that I've been stuck here.
So My Own Private Idaho was Gus Van Sant's take on Shakespeare's Henriade, which is a series of historical plays.
Isn't that right, Mike? We care about money. You got plenty of money. Actually, Mike is right. I am going to inherit money. A lot of money.
It took quite loose inspiration following these two young street hustlers played by River Phoenix and Keanu Reeves, who go on this journey across the United States and to Italy in search of Mike's mother. It's not only considered one of Gus Van Sant's best films, but it's become a very pivotal queer film.
So My Own Private Idaho was as far from Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure as you could get.
And it's definitely one of the most heartbreaking films of the kind of 90s, and definitely for Keanu, I think, establishes him as this sort of unknowable screen presence.
Obscure, enigmatic film, quite difficult to know what's going on all the time. There's surreal moments, and I think it was Keanu Reeves' signal to the audience that he was not going to be pigeonholed, and he wasn't going to be caught in that kind of. It was an art house film and an art house film.
My Own Private Idaho is a unique, introspective film. Keanu and River's performances were exceptional. The two men shared a rare bond during its production, a bond which bled into their performances and solidified the feature as a cultural milestone, thanks to its themes and raw messaging. Audiences wondered when Keanu might return to the screen with River Phoenix. Their chemistry had left a lasting impact on viewers. The two young actors seemingly had no limits. They shared great potential. The world, however, had other plans. My Own Private Idaho served as one of River Phoenix's last films before he passed at the age of 23. Keanu, like many, was devastated at the loss of this incredibly talented and beloved presence. As the young actor's career flourished, criticism of his acting became prominent.
There have been some pretty harsh criticisms directed at him, particularly regarding his role in Dracula.
With Francis Ford Coppola, a costume drama set in the 19th century England, and he seems wholly out of place.
Of course, sir. I'll attend to the count. Thank you for your confidence.
I think people who criticize Keanu Reeves as an actor have a rather snobbish idea of acting. It's linked to the stage tradition, and it's linked to dialogue, to an actor reciting dialogue on the stage. That is not what Keanu Reeves does. And I'll first admit that. That's not his forte.
For me, it's just a very distinctive style of performance. It's a very reserved style where he withholds a lot, but he's very subtle in his movements and his delivery.
He has a kind of intensity as a screen presence that I don't think many critics or award-giving bodies have been willing to make. He hasn't been treated even generously.
To search for his artistic voice, Keanu delved into any type of film imaginable, returning to the comedy genre with Much Ado About Nothing, Even Cowgirls Get the Blues, and Freaked, an experimental picture co-directed by his good friend Alex Winter, in which Alex also starred.
I mean, English? No. Most of the play is in verse, in prose, so it's a welcome challenge.
The strange casting decisions continued. Little Buddha stood out as a rogue addition for Keanu, who plays as the reincarnation of Siddhartha Gautama.
Plays Prince Siddhartha, an emotional, fable myth aspect interpretation. Buddhism is very specific with the psychological, emotional declension, I guess. So I guess studying that comes to emancipation from the from emotions and realizing more of what phenomenal existence is. And through that practice comes perhaps compassion.
In the 1980s and into the 1990s, action stars tended to be figures like Sylvester Stallone and Arnold Schwarzenegger. That is really powerful, really macho, seemingly none too bright men of power and action.
Keanu Reeves helped to bring in this new age of action stars where you didn't have to be the biggest, the most ripped person on the planet to be a credible lead.
Keanu Reeves really signals a change with Speed, particularly in terms of turning him into a kind of action hero. But I think it's also a point at which he redefines the action hero.
When I find you, pop quiz, hotshot. There's a bomb on a bus. Once the bus goes 50 miles an hour, the bomb is armed. If it drops below 50, it blows up.
Sandra Bullock is behind the wheel of the bus. Keanu Reeves is trying to save the bus. It's this crazy action thriller, as fast-paced and exciting as they come, in which he plays a kind of heroic action man. I can't think of anything more different from Bram Stoker's Dracula or My Own Private Idaho. It's a really different kind of role for him, and he absolutely owns it. He becomes this man of steel, this man of action, and it really redefines his career.
Yeah, the title Speed, and then the situations that the character got into. I mean, it was an opportunity to play, I thought, a good man and to have fun. You know, I was looking for work, it came around, and got the opportunity to play in it, and I'm so lucky to be able to participate in such a fantasy and to hopefully entertain.
No, I think it's just nobody expected anything, and they got a lot more than they didn't expect. So it's just, I don't play into it. You have a good time, you hope something does well, and it does. I hope it does well for, Keanu and John, and yes.
He turns it into something that's more intelligent, with a bit of emotional depth. So he redefines the action hero and makes him just a little bit more vulnerable, even though he has that sort of power and energy that all action heroes have.
The nature of acting in an action picture is very much the sense of play. It's really good. Even the dramatics part of it, it's really of itself. It's a good part of it.
Keanu proved himself as a formidable action star in Speed, He followed suit with Johnny Mnemonic in 1995. To many, this sci-fi thriller was thought as the foundation for the next steps in Keanu's journey. The inclusion of cyberpunk elements drove people to believe that this was a world in which the actor seemed comfortable in, though awards would have one believe that Keanu remained a blank slate. Keanu's name has sprung up a fair few times in the Raspberry Awards. Many continued to undermine his acting abilities, whilst others saw him as merely having his own unique methodology, which greatly separated him from the traditional acting world. In the same year, A Walk in the Clouds stood out as a unique project, being an unconventional period romance. Despite family traditions, love blossoms between Reeves' character, Paul, and Victoria, played by Aitana Sanchez Gijon. The film provides a unique perspective on a Mexican family during the 1940s and social standings. The film gained Keanu another Raspberry nomination, whilst many audience members thoroughly enjoyed his performance. Keanu's performances were divisive, and slowly, people were beginning to accept that. Keanu came into contact with Jennifer Syme. Jennifer was a talented actor and filmmaker who'd worked alongside David Lynch before directing her own projects. The two became a couple. Undoubtedly, their passion for the arts was a talking point of their relationship. Before long, Jennifer became pregnant in 1999, the very year Keanu's life would change indefinitely.
Cameraman Jolien, just get in there and get you a shot of Keanu Reeves. We're being promised we're next in line with...
I think the first film that comes to mind with Keanu Reeves is The Matrix. There are other roles that come to mind, but The Matrix is such a distinctive movie. It's such a distinctive film. It's so iconic.
I was 11 when I first saw it, and I remember thinking that Keanu Reeves was probably the coolest person I'd ever seen. The film itself has such an incredible legacy and has really changed the way we think about sci-fi movies and has become kind of part of the public lexicon now. So that's the one for me that I think will always stand out.
Sky News Alive. Can I just ask you one more quick question, please? What do you make of the reception, not just here in London, but to The Matrix worldwide?
It's pretty extraordinary, you know, and it's great to be a part of. It doesn't happen all that often. For me, I love the films. I had a great experience making them, and so hopefully people will enjoy them. The experience of making the film was a great one, and the aspect when it came around to complete the trilogy, just signed on board without reading the scripts because it was an experience I had and trust I had with movies. And had a great experience making Reloading Revolutions, and it's great that people are coming out to the films and I hope that they enjoy it.
Previously, Will Smith says that one of his biggest regrets is talking about The Matrix, which he turned down in favour of Wild Wild West because he had a lot of doubts about when the Nicolas Cage similarly turned down the film, as well as Brad Pitt and Val Kilmer. So it was quite a long list of names before Keanu Reeves was the one that the script came to. And Warner Brothers really fought quite hard for Keanu, whereas the Wachowskis were more interested in having Johnny Depp. Keanu ended up being a perfect choice because he was a little bit of a blank slate. He didn't have a huge credit out at the time. He really gave this sense of naivety and almost openness that I think any other actor would have probably struggled with. But the reason the film works is because we feel there's a connection to him, and he could be kind of anyone in the world. He is the kind of releaser that gets embroiled in this very weird world and kind of has to just go along with it.
I did alright. I got kicked a couple of times and burst open my gum. You know, one of the wire trips in there, I got caught in a tree. But I never really got hurt. So The Matrix came out in 1999. You have to think back then to how early that is to have a cyber thriller, right? A thriller about the internet. When most people were still just getting to grips with what the internet was, this is a whole drama based around the internet. It also involves a lot of AI, artificial intelligence. Again, so it's not no I
I'm glad to be
You've done lots of really interesting work.
Yeah, I've been trying. I really feel like the nuclear is here's the event. Here's the piece that we all actors, and perhaps people are part of. So hopefully, if anything's remembered, it will be the films themselves.
So it is an incredibly innovative, I think a very prophetic film. It just broke a lot of old ground and opened up new cinematic worlds. Matrix is my favorite film partly because of its visual style. It imagined the cyber world cinematically at a time when few, if any, films had done that. It's interesting to look at it now and realize just how paranoid it is and how steep in conspiracy it is. Everything is artificial and invented by larger structures around us that are all out against us. That are all out to farm us. It's pretty special. Not like these guys.
No, I'm not. I'm going to apply it.
I refuse to plan.
More measured.
The fame which came to Keanu thanks to the Matrix franchise was immense. Beyond the glitz and glamour, Keanu's partner, Jennifer, gave birth to their daughter, Ava. Sadly, the baby was stillborn. The birth affected Keanu and Jennifer beyond comprehension. The couple briefly parted ways, before reuniting once more in 2001 after dealing with the loss in their own way. One's personal life can put a great deal of strain on their career. Whilst fans of Keanu could only speculate, it was something that many felt sympathy for. To juggle publicity and privacy is a war Keanu seemed to avoid fighting. His emotions were raw and could be seen in his interactions alongside his performances. An aura of honesty and humbleness began to radiate from Keanu, something many celebrities could not demonstrate due to being enveloped by fame. But Keanu was a completely different entity. The Gift, directed by Sam Raimi, took Keanu back to a darker character and is regarded as one of the actor's more unique performances. His role as Donnie Barksdale allowed Keanu to explore his emotional range within a whodunit narrative.
Your mama being a witch, you know. If she don't stop her evil ways, someday somebody's gonna bring her up. And then your boy's gonna be without a dad.
I play Detective Tom Ludlow of the LAPD. I'm an officer implicated in the death of his ex-partner who's trying to find the killers. And along the way, I kind of dig up more than I thought. It was a great role. And working with David was great. And